Hello everyone. So today we are going to discuss about anthropometry. Now the first question is, what is anthropometry? So derived from Greek words, anthropos means human and metron means measurement, which refers to the measurement of the human individual. So it is a branch of anthropology which involves the quantitative measurement of the human body. Again, it's a quantitative measurement. So it is a study of the measurement of the human body in terms of the dimensions of bone, muscles and fat or adipose tissue. It is a key component of nutritional status assessment of children and adults. But precisely it is more important in case of children than compared to adults. Now what are the purposes of anthropometry? So anthropometry is used to help scientists and anthropologists to understand physical variations among humans. It has a special importance because of the emergence of complex work systems where knowledge of the physical dimensions of man with accuracy is important. Mainly it is used to evaluate both under and overnutrition. See, both under and overnutrition. So it is equally useful to evaluate overnutrition, or in other words to evaluate obesity as well. Also, it is the single most portable, universally acceptable, inexpensive and non-invasive techniques for assessing the size, composition and proportion of the human body. Appropriate use and interpretation from infancy to old age is a valuable tool for guiding the health and nutritional status of individual and population. Pediatricians have long used child growth as a parameter to evaluate the health and well-being of children, and by that it's also useful to evaluate the overall health and well-being of the society, because children are important parameters to evaluate the overall well-being of the society. Anthropometric data are used to evaluate health and dietary status, disease risk and body composition changes that occur over the adult lifespan. Researchers in diverse health disciplines including cardiovascular health, gerontology, nutrition and occupational health use anthropometric data to examine health status and healthcare utilization. But there is a small drawback, that the measured values reflect about the current nutritional status and don't differentiate between acute and chronic changes. So these data, they give you the picture of the present scenario, but they can't differentiate between acute and chronic changes. Now let's talk about components of anthropometry. So we can broadly divide into two parts. One is age dependent factors and the second one age independent factors. So first, when we talk about age dependent factors, mainly they are A, weight, B, height, C, head circumference and D, chest circumference. While talking about age independent factors, A, mid-arm circumference, B, BMI or body mass index and C, skin fold thickness. Now let's talk about all these components one by one. So the first one is weight. Also this is one of the most important component of anthropometry. The weight of the child should be recorded in the nude or minimal light clothing. This is very important in case of children as well as in adult. Minimal light clothing is extremely important. Then it should be recorded accurately on an electronic type of weighing scale. Then there are few things which need to be taken care of. They are, weighing scale should have a minimum unit of 100 gram. Then child should be placed on the middle of the weighing pan. 3. Weighing scale should be corrected for any zero error before measurement. This is also important. And the last one, serial measurements should be done on the same weighing scale to avoid any errors. So as we talked, the measurement of weight is the most reliable criteria of assessment of health and nutritional status of children. Weight can be recorded using a beam type weighing balance, then electronic weighing scale for infants and children, and 3 bathroom type of mechanical scale. But this is unreliable. So there are different ways, by which we can measure the weight of children as well as adults. So we can see here, in case of an infant or very young child, simply we have to put him on electronic weighing scale, right? But in case of slightly bigger child, we can use other parameters to measure weight. So there are different parameters available for the given age. So there is a formula by which we can measure expected weight of the child. The formula is called Veitch's formula. So we can see here, if the child is between 3 to 12 months, then expected weight is age in months plus 9 upon 2. In case of child is between 1 to 6 years, then expected weight is age in years into 2 plus 8. Or if the child is 7 to 12 years, then expected weight is equal to age in years into 7 minus 5 upon 2. Now there is a classification of malnutrition by Indian Academy of Pediatrics based on weight. So we can see here on the left side there is weight for age, and on the right side grades of malnutrition. So for a given child, when the weight for age is more than 80%, the child is completely normal. If weight for age is 71 to 80%, then it's grade 1 or mild malnutrition. If weight for age is between 61 to 70%, then it's grade 2 or moderate level of malnutrition. If weight for age is 51 to 60%, then it is grade 3 or severe level of malnutrition. And finally, if weight for age is less than 50%, then it is grade 4 or very severe grade of malnutrition. So after weight, let's talk about height or length. Now this is another equally important parameter as far as anthropometry is concerned. So up to 2 years of age, length is measured by using infantometer. Now there are few things regarding how to do it. So the child is placed supine, the head is held firmly in position against a fixed upright headboard by one person. Legs are straightened, keeping feet at right angles. Then free footboard is brought into firm contact with the child's heels, and length is measured from a scale which is set in the measuring table. So let's see all these things in the picture. So here is the picture, which explains everything regarding how to measure the height of the child under 2 years of age. So number 1, questionnaire and pencil on clipboard on floor or ground. Then number 2, the assistant on her knees. Number 3, measurer also on his knees. Then number 4, hands of assistant cupped over ears, head against base of board. Number 5, her arms should be comfortably straight. Number 6, line of sight perpendicular to base of board. Number 7, we can see the child should be flat on board. Number 8, the hand of measurer should be on knees or shins, while legs should be straight. And finally number 9, you can see feet of child should be flat against footpiece. So this is how the length should be measured. Now in case of child over 2 years of age, or in case of adult, how the height or stature should be measured. So it should be like this. But there are few things we need to take care of. They are: the subject must be barefoot, wearing as little clothing as possible. Then the subject should stand on a flat surface at a right angle to the vertical board of the stadiometer. Then his or her weight should be distributed evenly over both feet. Then the arms should hang freely by the sides of the trunk with palms facing the thighs. Then the subject should place his or her heels together, while both heels should be touching the base of the vertical board. The scapula and buttocks must also be in contact with the vertical board. The subject must inhale deeply and maintain a fully erect position without altering the load on the heels. And finally, the measurement is taken to the nearest 1 millimeter. So this is how height should be measured in case of adult or of child over 2 years of age. So now let's talk about height velocity. Means at particular age what should be approximate rate of increase in stature. So between birth to 3.5 months of age, there should be 3.5 centimeter increase in stature per month. In between 3 to 6 months, the rate should be 2 centimeter per month. Between 6 to 9 months, the rate of increase in stature should be 1.5 centimeter per month. During 9 to 12 months, it should be 1 to 1.3 centimeter per month. During 2 to 5 years, it should be 6 to 8 centimeter per year. Then during 5 to 12 years, it should be 5 centimeter of increase per year. While talking about adolescent age, so it's a difference. There is a difference between girls and boys. In case of girls, is during 12 to 16 years of age, the rate of increase should be 8 centimeter per year. While in case of boys, it is 14 to 18 years, the rate of increase in stature should be 10 centimeter per year. Now how to predict the height of children. So same in case of weight, here also we have to apply Veitch's formula. So how it works? Length or height in centimeter is equal to age in years into 6 plus 77. While talking about adult height, so when we talk about adult height, it depends on many factors like parental height, then Tanner's formula and Veitch's formula. So parental height is also very important factor. Genetic role also plays very important role here when we talk about adult height. So after weight and height, let's talk about the other component or parameter of anthropometry, which is head circumference. The measurement of head circumference is an important screening procedure for detecting abnormalities of head growth. Although usually caused by non-nutritional factors, slow head growth can be a result of severe undernutrition. Children with poor head growth frequently have poor linear growth as well. So maximum brain growth takes place during fetal life, which is 70%. 70% of the brain growth happens during fetal life. Then remaining 20% during infancy, and the remaining 10% during preschool years. Head circumference are usually recorded until 5 years of age. Now if scalp modeling or cranial edema is present, measurement of head circumference may be inaccurate until 4th or 5th day of life. Measurement is done by placing the tape over the occipital protuberance at the back and just over the supraorbital ridge and glabella at the front. So now regarding head circumference growth velocity, so till 3 months it increases at the rate of 2 cm per month. From 3 months to 1 year, it increases at the rate of 2 cm per 3 months. From 1 year to 3 year, it increases at the rate of 1 centimeter per 6 months, and from 3 years to 5 years it increases at the rate of 1 centimeter per 1 year. So during first year there is 12 centimeter increase in head circumference, while after that during 1 to 5 years only 5 centimeter gain occurs in head size. So we can see that maximum growth of head circumference occurs during first year only. Then adult head size is achieved in 5 to 6 years. Now measurement of head circumference during first year of life, it can be done by Dines formula. It is like that. So length in centimeter plus 9.5 plus 2.59 by 2. So by this method we can measure the head circumference during first year. So we can see here, this is the way to measure head circumference, which we pretty much explained. So this is how it should be done. So now chest circumference. It is usually measured at the level of nipples, preferably midway during inspiration and expiration. Now in children less than 5 years, it should be done on lying down position, and if it's more than 5 years old, then it should be done on standing position. So there is a pic given as well. We can see here how to measure the chest circumference. Now this is very interesting, relationship between head and chest circumference. At birth, head circumference is more than chest circumference by up to 3 centimeters. Then at around 9 months to 1 year of age, head circumference is equal to chest circumference, but thereafter chest grows more rapidly compared to brain. Now in malnourished children, chest size may be considerably smaller than head circumference because growth of brain is less affected by undernutrition. So there will be delay before chest circumference overtakes head circumference in malnourished children. Now let's talk about mid upper arm circumference. So it is an estimation of the circumference of the bone and muscle portions of the upper arm. During 1 to 5 years of age, it remains reasonably static between 15 to 17 centimeter among healthy children. It is conventionally measured over upper arm at a point marked between acromion at shoulder level and olecranon at elbow level, with arm bent at right angle. The child is asked to stand or sit with arm hanging loose at the side. Now if the circumference is less than 12.5 centimeter, it suggests severe malnutrition, and if it is 12.5 to 13.5 centimeter, in between this level, then it suggests moderate malnutrition. So first here in the pic we can see like how to measure the mid upper arm circumference. It's quite easy, to be honest. Now let's see this Bengal test for quick assessment of mid upper arm circumference. A fibrous glass ring of internal diameter of 4 cm is slipped up the arm. If it passes above the elbow, it suggests that upper arm is less than 12.5 cm and the child is malnourished. So that's called Bengal test. Now let's talk about BMI, or body mass index. So what is BMI? BMI is equal to weight upon height. This ratio is expressed in kilogram per meter square and gives rough estimation of the body mass status of an individual in relation to his or her height. BMI is very important parameter of anthropometry these days, particularly in adults. It's been used widely, to be honest. Now BMI is used slightly more these days for diagnosis of obesity compared to diagnosis of undernutrition. So a BMI for age of more than 85th percentile is suggestive of overweight. A BMI for age of more than 95th percentile alongside association with skin fold thickness for age of more than 90th percentile, it is sure diagnosis of obesity. But there is one important thing which should be taken note of. A BMI can be used to screen for weight categories that may lead to health problems, but it is not diagnostic of the body fatness or health of an individual. So here is the picture which clearly says that when BMI is less than 18.50, it is underweight. The person falls under the category of underweight. When BMI is between 18.50 to 24.99, then the person is considered healthy or healthy weight. Now when BMI is between 25 to 29.99, the person falls under category of overweight. And when BMI is 30 or more, the certainly person is obese. Now, skin fold thickness. Approximately half of the amount of fat tissue in the human body is located below the surface of the skin. This makes it possible to predict total body fat with skin fold thickness with a relative high degree of accuracy. This accuracy can be confirmed by CT scan as well as ultrasonic and radiographic techniques used to measure subcutaneous fat. So this is a pic showing how to measure the skin fold thickness. The assessor, using the forefinger and the thumb, grasps and lifts the subcutaneous tissue and skin from the underlying muscle. Then he places the pincers of the skin fold caliper, applying a constant pressure 2 cm below the fingers at a depth of 1 cm. He holds the position for about 3 to 4 seconds and then takes the measurements for accuracy. This provides the actual skin fold thickness in millimeter. So, after discussing about all the components of anthropometry, finally now let's talk about advantages of anthropometry. So, number one is it is less expensive and need minimal training. 2. Readings are reproducible. 3. Objective with high specificity and sensitivity. And 4. Readings are numerical and gradable on standard growth charts. So ultimately anthropometry can be done very easily and its usefulness is pretty much there, and that's the reason, one of the reason that still these days anthropometry is still being used widely everywhere. Now, as every coin has other side, same way anthropometry has some limitations as well, which are: number 1, inter-observers errors in measurement. 2, it has limited nutritional diagnosis. And finally, number 3, it has some problems with reference standards like local versus international standards. So that's all about anthropometry. Thank you very much.